who is going to start? Me?
No, sir. Subhashini will be starting, sir. She'll introduce you first, and then you can start, sir. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, Subhashini, you can start now.
Good evening to one and all present here for the IEEE International Webinar Series SAVANT 3. I am Subhashini, IEEE student member of Photonics Society from the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. On behalf of St. Joseph Institute of Technology, I am here to volunteer for today's session. Now, I would like to extend my first and foremost gratitude to our Honorable Chairman, Sir Dr. B. Babu Manoharan, our Managing Director, Mrs. B. Jasipriya Ma'am, and our Director, Sir, Mr. Sasi Shekhar, and our beloved Principal, Dr. B. Ravichandran, Sir, for giving this opportunity to conduct the webinar. I would also like to extend my gratitude to our Head of Department, Dr. C. Jnanakausalya Ma'am, Staff and Student Affairs, and Dr. G. Rohini Ma'am, Lab Affairs, for their ceaseless support. Now, I will be sharing a few words about our speaker. Dr. LORENZO serves as Chief Scientist at Telephonics, a top 100 defense corporation specializing in ISR, with the role of translating research innovations into commercial products. He was an associate professor at the University of Dayton. Dr. LORENZO has published over 70 peer-reviewed journal and conference papers and 2 book chapters. He is very active in the IEEE community, serving in the Aerospace and Electronic Systems Society Board of Governors as a member, as a representative to the Sensors Council, and also an AESS Distinguished Lecturer. He taught many short courses in radar and RF worldwide, with a focus to under-reserved areas. Before we start the session, I would like to say a few instructions to be followed by the participants. Kindly post your questions in the chat box. There will be a question answer session at the end of the webinar. The attendance link will be posted at the end of today's webinar. Now, I invite our speaker of the day to kindly start the session.
Thank you very
Sir,
much
you can
for the
start the
nice
session.
introduction. Thank you. So, the talk today will be about radar, history and future of radar system. And the objective is to understand why radar is so important and hopefully motivate your career in that direction. Because radar is usually a little bit neglected in the engineering world until you happen to be into it, and then you appreciate its importance and meaning. So let's start with the history of radar, why it's so important, and why it's so important even today. The history of radar, though, starts as usual, as we know, on the military side. That's really the roots of radar. You need to imagine to be during World War I, and you need to be any country, it can be any country, it doesn't have to be a specific country. And you need to worry about this new invention. It just came from the US, the Wright brothers. They invented a plane. And guess what? When they invented a plane, they didn't invent the plane to have crews, for traveling and vacation. The first time they invented a plane, they used it to deliver weapons, deliver bombs. So now you have a World War I, and you have this weapon, these planes carrying weapons coming from the sky, and you have no way to see them. And when you see them, it's already too late because they are coming toward you. You see them with your own eyes. You have only a few seconds to run away. We call this time like the pre-radar world, where all you could do is like turning on lights in the sky, scanning the sky all the time, especially at night, or having binocular, watching 24 hours for, incoming plane, or at most have this kind of big microphone here. These are just huge microphones trying to detect the noise of the engine. But all you really could do, it was a few seconds worth of detection, of warning. just enough to tell the people, run away, go underground, and try to be safe. And this picture here, these are not a joke. These are true devices that were used in the past to detect the incoming arrival of planes. So during World War I, there was a big threat worldwide of this big plane coming with weapons, killing people. And people didn't know what to do. There was no detection system for this plane, no warning system. People all over the world were in trouble. Plane existed everywhere, no detection system. So somebody had to do something. So what can we do? Well, we start with a famous guy that you all know in electrical engineering. It's Henry Hertz. We know Hertz not because of the car rental system. We know Hertz because of the unit Hertz, right? The frequency. But people don't know why Hertz is really famous. He didn't really invent the frequency, the unit, right? He actually is famous because he was able to prove that electromagnetic waves bounce when they have a piece of metal in front of it. So that's step number one for a radar system. People didn't know that before. People thought that these electromagnetic waves go straight. They were discovered, but there was nothing stopping them. Henry Hertz proved that if you put a piece of metal, you can send a wave and it will come back to you. Now, he didn't invent a radar, but he was thinking in that way. So we want to give credit to Henry Hertz because he gave us the first formulas to create a radar. But we are not there yet, right? So what do we have to do? We need to wait with a very important person who actually invented the radar, called Holzmeier. Holzmeier took the idea of Hertz and said, like, what if I use his formula and make a device that can detect the incoming pieces of metal that are coming toward me so that I can give a warning. At that time, Holzmeier had in mind ships. So he was more concerned about ships coming in harbor because ships are very big and very massive, made of metal, so they are easier to detect from a radar perspective. So Holzmeier created the first radar in the world in 1904 with two antennas sending waves, and using the formulas of Hertz was able to prove experimentally the first radar. By the way, this one happened in Cologne, in Germany, about 100 years ago. And for your reference, our society, the IEEE Aerospace Electronic System, last year, the Board of Governors just went there and celebrated that event. We were all there, see I'm here, and put a plaque, what is called the IEEE historical milestone, right where Holzmeier tested the radar for the first time. So when you go to Cologne to see the cathedral, you just go outside a little bit off, and you will see also a plaque over there, remembering the Holzmeier experiment where he tried the radar for the first time. It's now there, it's going to be there forever in the memory for the future generation. But Holzmeier, unfortunately, was only able to detect ships. And just keep in mind a very important part. Holzmeier was in Germany, and he was in the beginning of the Nazi Germany. So that technology was in the hands, in principle, of the Nazi party. Luckily, the Nazi people didn't pay a lot of attention to that technology. And then so, unfortunately for Holzmeier, nobody invested it, and his technology died out. It was not able to make it a very big technology, especially because it was only meant for ships. The real threat were the plane. Remember, the plane was the issue, right? So who else came after Holzmeier? Well, other people then start looking at this problem. And there is a very famous guy called Wolfson Watt. But before going to Wolfson Watt, I want to tell you another nice trivia. You probably heard about Tesla. Of course, not Tesla, the car. I'm talking about Tesla, Nikola Tesla, the experimentalist that was in the Balkan region and then moved to US. And he was a crazy guy. He invented a lot of things, right? He was a genius, but also a crazy person. In fact, 50% of what he wrote might be also not that real, but 50% was actually a genius, okay? Among the 50% of the stuff that he wrote that is kind of a little bit questionable, it was a sentence that he said that he could build systems that can create death rays. You can send a pulse of electromagnetic energy and kill people. And of course, at that time, there was like a Second World War coming. People were like, oh, let's look at this idea. Maybe it can be some new type of weapon. So the people in UK start a sort of a classified type of program to see if you really can build this type of death rays. And Watson Watt was in charge of it, and he did all the analysis as a true engineer, and found out that now Nikola Tesla was wrong. You cannot really do a death ray. But you might actually be able to solve the problem of detecting the plane. So this idea of Nikola Tesla didn't really go to killing people, but he started the idea of detecting plane. And how can he do that? Well, what changed the idea of Hauss-Meyer radar by sending pulsed electromagnetic energy, not just waves, but you send pulses. That's the typical radar we have in mind. And again, at that time, people didn't think about pulses. So if you send a pulse, you have something more than just a wave going out. You have the energy coming back to you, but you can also time it with your clock. Think about that. And you can detect the range of the target you're looking at. So now you have a system that can do detection and ranging. So you have a radio detection and ranging device, which when you short it, you call it radar, radio detection and ranging. Watson and Watt, before World War II, proven in a very famous experiment that he can create a device that can send pulses and can detect and range incoming threats, especially planes, which are made of metal. This was a revolution because as soon as he was able to prove it, the UK created what is called the chain home. And you see here a picture. The chain home, you can actually still see today as a museum. When you go in UK, these are big towers that you find them in the coastline of UK that are actually radar that were set up there to protect from the Nazi people coming to invade UK. Remember that during World War II, all this region here was actually Nazi, okay? It was Hitler here. And they were trying to come here with planes. But now UK had a protection because this chain home was able to detect this plane coming minutes and minutes, if not 30 minutes in advance, so that people have a response. And now we can have an entire lecture on the chain home and how the Nazi tried to defeat the chain home. It's a very interesting one, but we can have another one. The key point here is like radar really tilted the outcome of the World War II, because with the chain home, Nazi couldn't just go there and bomb randomly. The UK had a protection. Nazi can just go there and do whatever they want. And Nazi did not have a chain home system until a few years after that. So they were unprotected. But again, people wanted to have the radar on a plane because they wanted to have this radar portable. Think about this chain home radar. They are big tower, huge and so on, right? You can carry them around. If you want to put a radar on a truck, if you want to put a radar on a plane, and you want to detect target nearby, you want to see if there are other planes coming to attack you, you need to have a small portable radar. Well, guess what? In the past, you couldn't do that because there was no device to create high power at very high frequency, which you needed to make the radar small. Those big antennas are there because the frequency was very low. Luckily, some people in Birmingham invented the magnetron, which is a special device that can create very, very high power and microwave. And because of that, people were able to create radar system that you can put it on an airplane. And now you again tilt the World War II, toward the Allied force, which would be UK and US and so on, because now they had the technology to detect incoming plane on a plane. So you are flying your plane and you see if there are enemy coming toward you. You have a situational awareness that other people couldn't have. And you can put it on a truck, you can put it on any other small device and move it around. Just to let you know, all the radars now are small like that. So this invention of working radar into microwave, it was very important. Okay. Now, just a trivia that I want to mention here because it's historical. You probably heard about Pearl Harbor attack in the US. That was the attack of the Japanese coming in the US that destroyed all the US base in Pearl Harbor and killed many, many people, and really started the World War II from the US side, and then the whole outcome. At Pearl Harbor, which is an island, it's a base in an island in Hawaii, there was a radar. And the radar is this big picture here. And the radar was there on. And it was there to detect incoming plane. The problem, though, is that the operator that was running the radar was not trained enough on radar. Actually, it's not even his fault. People didn't really know radar that much. It was just discovered. So people didn't understand all the issues that you're going to get in radar that now we know very well. So we have a picture, a screenshot here, which actually it is a true screenshot, meaning that there is a screen of a radar and somebody takes a shot with a camera, because at that time you couldn't save the data, right? So this is an official screenshot of the time before Pearl Harbor attack, where you see all these peaks here of things coming toward you. The operator saw so many spikes that he said, like, nah, that cannot be true. It must be an error. And he wrote on the top of the screenshot, a bird flock, like all birds coming toward you. He thought they were just birds. And so he didn't pay attention. He didn't sound any alarm and so on, and he just went to have a coffee. This was very early in the morning. Then when he came back, World War II started. Okay? There is a lot of history in the US under MIT Radiation Laboratory, started really after World War II, actually during World War II, because they really found out that radar was one of the key enablers for the World War II and let's say the winning strategy for World War II. So Radiation Laboratory, when you go to MIT, you can still find it there. There is a sort of an area with a museum where you can see where all the people were working on the radar. And they left a series of books that you can still find, that if you are an electrical engineer and you are studying modern day books of antenna or on RF and so on, and you see the formulas with some type of formalism in terms of the way how we code electric field, magnetic field, and divergence and curl and so on, you can trace all of them back to those books here that were created during the Radiation Laboratory in World War II. And that's the history. And of course, history continues, but that was the main part of the history up to World War II. What happened after World War II in the radar? Well, you can say that this is a radar. You've seen it many times when you go to the airport, right? Great, it's a radar spinning around. We are very happy of this radar here, but that's boring. That's all that happened. Like, all I think about radar is that something that rotates like that. Well, definitely that's not what radar has become. Radar has evolved way more than that. It is just that people don't talk about it, because most of the radar advancements are in the defense industry, are in the military one. And since there is in the military people don't like to talk much about what they do. So it's a little bit harder to find what they do. You need to be a military person first or work in the defense, and then you find out like, oh my God, radar can do all of these things here. So here I'm going to show you some videos online of what radar can do, modern day radar, that are more sophisticated than the one you see when you go to an airport. For example, the same scanning radar you've seen before now are much more sophisticated. Now they have multiple beams using active electronically scan array that they can track multiple targets at the same time, like having multiple antennas at the same time, each one focusing on its own target, so they can keep track of all of them, and in principle track missiles that are going toward the ship and respond to them. So track your own missile so that you can destroy the incoming missile. But we have radars that we call them ballistic missile defense radar. And please take a look at them, how big they are. There is a picture over there of the trees. These are in scale. These radars are huge, okay? There are some of them in Russia, some of them are in US, other countries also have them. These are huge radar with gigawatt of power. And they are simply looking at the sky, actually outside the troposphere, for intercontinental ballistic missiles coming that are actually very small when they are over there because they are all detached and so on. So there is a very small part of the missile and they go very fast. You need very big radar to detect them. They do exist. They are pointed there. One is in Alaska. The other one is on the other side in Russia. I forgot the name. And they are all looking at each other. Okay. You have the Patriot system. You should probably have it a lot during the Gulf War and Iraq, Afghanistan, and so on, because this is a very robust system to detect incoming missiles, especially mortar and so on, where there is a phase array who finds the incoming missile. Then, once the phase array finds the missile, you shoot a missile back. But the beauty is that there is also a radar on the missile, and we call this radar missile seeker. There is a name. So the missile seeker is another radar, which is at the tip of the missile, which gets engaged when you are very close to the enemy missile. So you get a better precision engagement right at the end to get better accuracy. You couldn't do that if you are having a radar on the ground. You don't have enough precision. There is an entire science only how to do radar on a missile. These are called missile seeker. We use radar also. I don't know if you see this movie, kind of weird, but it is. So you see this gun is shooting bullets, right? Well, that gun was actually aided by a radar. So you're trying to shoot a particular enemy, but when you shoot a bullet, the bullet might go somewhere here and there because of the drag, right? The aerodynamic drag. Well, a radar can track the bullet and see where the first bullet is going and knows exactly the drag, the air, the wind, and so on. And so the second bullet can be corrected because now you know the trajectory, so you can move the gun back for exactly the right value so that the second bullet, when it comes out, goes exactly where it should be. So it makes it very easier for the people who are trying to shoot to kill an enemy because you don't have to worry anymore about wind and so on. It fixes it for you because it tracks each single trajectory of a bullet. We have radars. I don't know if you ever seen planes like this. Sorry, sometimes here it starts with black and white. You see that? You have radar on a plane. So the whole plane is only meant to support that radar. That's why you build the radar, to put how you build the plane. The plane is built to have the radar on top. And so why would people spend so much money to build an entire plane for that radar? Because that radar is called early warning radar, is a sort of a portable ballistic missile defense radar. You fly it over the region, and it checks the whole area for incoming missiles, even the very small ones that are very, very far away, to make sure that nobody is sending any missile. And people are willing to create an entire plane with its own power and its own computer and so on, just to run that radar. Very expensive. Another hot topic is what is called passive radar. Passive radar is a technology is catching up recently, and it has to do with radars that are not even emitting. They are not sending any signal. They are using signal from other sources, such as FM radio, TV signals, or Wi-Fi signal, and they're using those signals as a way to range and doing angle and so on. So they are really exploiting other sources. And these are perfect stealthy type of radar because they don't emit. So if you are using them, nobody will ever know that you are using them because they are completely passive. They do exist. There are many companies who are doing them. They are cheap and small, and they have different type of range. And it's a new field. They really started in the last 10 years, passive radar. A little bit of advertisement. This is our company, Telephonics. We are very famous for doing, for finding periscope. We have radar that are meant to find periscope when they come out from the sea. You do this one very well with radar system because they can look very far away, and when a periscope comes out, they can easily detect it and identify them. And periscope so far, radar so far is the best option you have to identify periscope. So people with submarine now, they need to be careful because every time they go out, they can be detected by a radar. GMTI. GMTI is a very, very nice mode for radar because it allows you not only to detect targets, but detect specifically the one who are moving, especially on the ground. That's why it's called ground moving target indicator. The operator who is using a GMTI radar will look like on a map like this. Here you see is a map, and all these little dots are moving target. And you see most of them are on a road because most of them are cars, but some of them are outside the car, so we don't know what they are. It could be people, it could be other cars off-road and so on. This gives you a big picture of what's going on in the field. People should be on the road. If they are not on the road, you need to worry about what they are doing. Radar can give you a great picture. Cameras cannot really do that because cameras, it's hard to see really what is moving or not, and they struggle. I will show you later why. But radar really can do at a wide area, all weather, day and night and so on, and give you only the dots of things that are actually moving. And here I have a nice video showing you how GMTI works. GMTI is so good that it can even see sometimes, not all the time though, through foliage. You can see through canopies, so you can see through forest. You can see things that are happening under the forest, that if they are moving or not, because the electromagnetic waves can go through some sort of foliage, not all of it, okay? But they can do that to some degree. Of course, cameras cannot do that. The last one is like counter RAM. So RAM stands for rocket, artillery, and mortar. So these are radars that are installed usually on tanks or on cars and other military vehicles. And they are really meant to identify and localize people who are shooting at you, whether they are shooting a rocket, some like this guy, or they are shooting like weapon, just rifle and snipers and so on, because they can detect the incoming of a rocket. And sophisticated system, they can even shoot back because the radar is so fast, it can tell you exactly where the rocket is going, and you can shoot something back. And it can easily identify somebody that is at the location where somebody is shooting from. And now these ones are popping up everywhere. So whenever you see a military system, a military vehicle, be aware that these ones have all these type of sensor. Okay? Everywhere in the whole world, they have this type of sensor now. The last one, I leave it at the end because this is now the hot topic, is the quantum radar. Everybody now is going with quantum. We have quantum computing, quantum cryptology, and so on. So why don't we do also quantum radar, right? Yes, quantum radar is also now a new hot topic in our world. And the country which is the most advanced is actually China. They publish a lot on quantum radar. They claim to have a working quantum radar system. Quantum radar actually works completely different than what you are used to think, because it doesn't use microwave energy anymore. It really uses, it still uses microwave, sorry if I say in the wrong way, but it uses the concept of quantum entanglement. So it creates photons that are exactly the same copy to each other. Then it takes one photon and keeps it to itself in the system and sends another photon out, and the two are entangled. Entangled means that if I change something here, this one also changes. So they are quantum related. Why do people like this kind of quantum system? Because if I can send a pulse with all these entangled photons, they are coming out, and I keep all the other one here with me and I can analyze them. If something happened to the one that are outside, it will also happen to the one that are inside because they are entangled. So I really don't need a receiver because I can just look at the one that are inside. I don't need to wait for the signal to come back. I can send them out. The one that are out are going to hit the target. They are going to do something on the target. And I'm just going to look at the one inside and see like, oh, look, something is moving here. So it means that they hit the target. I don't need to wait for a signal coming back. So I don't have a two-way loss. I don't also need a receiver at all. So, I mean, people cannot attack me with jammer and so on because there is no receiver. I have my own photons in my own closed environment and nobody's going to touch them. So it's a very great invention. But again, it's research. So China claims that they invented one and they are working it, but it's still research. Probably in 10 years when we're going to have this talk again, maybe it's becoming more of a technology. But I want to mention it here because it's the future. Now you're going to say like, oh my God, I don't want to be in the defense world. I want to do something more commercial. Is there something that is attractive from a commercial point of view? Well, yes, there is. And it's actually starting recently because as usual, technology usually develop in the military world and then they slowly go into the commercial world. Internet is the most famous example. It started in the military world and then it went to the commercial world. So let's see what's going on in the commercial world. I don't know if you see that. This is like Google coming up with their gesture radar, where there is a very small radar in their product that looks at your gesture. And you see, you can do gesture like you do normally. The radar can detect them, very small one. And this type of gesture will be sort of command to your own device. So like scrolling, clicking, and so on. And the radar has a much better way to understand gesture than a camera, because camera can't really see through, you are obscure. A radar has a way to see through and get other information than a camera cannot. Rumor goes that the Pixel 4 will have a radar. So Google Pixel 4, the new phone from Google will have this radar in it. Radar can also be used, I don't know if you see that, radar can also be used for ground penetrating. So to find stuff underground, for archaeology, for finding pipe, for finding broken pipe, to do some sort of mapping of the underground. And the simplest ground penetrating radar can give you a map like that. It just shows you like what you find on the ground. This is called radargram. But the fancy one, the one that you can go home and collect the data and spend some time on your computer, can give a 3D reconstruction of the underground. This is using the same principle of tomography of your brain, the same type of math. You can use them in radar. And this is much more useful for people who want to find tunnels, oil, water, and other things, okay? The full tomographic reconstruction. And then, guess what? The most, I would say, the fastest growing market in radar right now is the automotive radar, with no doubt. Automotive radar is really exploding now. Everybody's doing automotive radar, okay? Because you need a lot of radar, not just one. You need one for far end, one for short range, one for the blind spot, one to create a 3D map, right, for autonomous driving and so on. So you actually need many radar, not just one. The only comment that I have for you, if you care about automotive radar, is that typically automotive radar is a race to the bottom, meaning that it's not a lot of advanced technology going on over there. It's more like making it cheap. That's really what they are trying to do. They are trying to show that you can make a radar on a chip, actually, very cheap, very, very economic, because they want to put a lot of radar, one on the left, on the right, on the top, on the bottom, and they cannot cost a lot of money. So if you can come up with solution very small on a chip that cost very little, and they are effective and they're easy to program and so on, you will be very successful. And there are a lot of companies working on automotive radar. This is the fastest market in radar by far right now, okay? There is another fastest market also that, I don't know if you see it here again, my movie are coming up a little bit, do you see that? Here it is, yeah. So these are radar that create a 3D shield on an area, and they detect incoming drones. It's the drone problem. People don't like to see little drone, UAV coming in a region because they can carry, of course, weapon and so on, something bad. And drones are very difficult to detect because they are very small, but not only they are small, but they are very hard to distinguish between a drone and a bird. How do you know if they are different? Well, there is a lot of machine learning and classification in that. In any case, now there are many companies, really a lot of companies, coming up with these shields that kind of like a few kilometers, and they pretty much tell you if there are only drones coming, and they are able to distinguish between birds, cars, and drones, so that you know that something is coming toward you. And the advanced company actually will also have something to jam the enemy drone, so that the drone cannot actually move anymore. It will just drop down. Then we have through the wall radar. I think this is not really commercial, but it's for drug, so it's almost like police department, right? So this is a through the wall radar. You put this radar on a wall, and you can see through the wall. You can see if there are people behind the wall, and you can see where they are, more or less, localize them if they are moving and so on. So it gives the policeman an idea of what's going on inside. Remember, in the past, they couldn't do that. They had to drill a hole and stick a camera in it and figure it out. Now with radar, you have a situational awareness. You can see exactly what's going on. You see that? So radar are providing now a new advance for police department and so on. And this technology is there, you can buy it. Another one that I put it on commercial, although it's mixed between commercial and military, it's the space fence radar. It's actually a big radar, probably the biggest radar ever built. It's in the US, and there is another one in Australia. It is by far the biggest radar in the world, the most powerful. So why I put it on commercial? Because it's really like a junk detector. That's what it does. It's tracking all the junk that all the satellites and the CubeSat and all these other little space probes and so on are leaving in the space in general. Because when they go in the space and they explode and so on, right, they leave junk. And even a little debris of a small nail or a screw or something like that, super small, can destroy a satellite. It completely destroys it. So we need to know where they are. Even the smallest one, we need to know where they are. And we do not have a system. Actually, we did not have a system until this one started a few years ago, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago. So now we can track all of them, all the little debris. And so there is a map of not just the satellite, but all the debris, all the little ones. The junk that people leave is still tracked because we can't really keep them and take it down. We just have to track and make sure that we don't send a satellite where there is a nail in the space, because that can be dangerous. Space fence. Another one, and this is actually, again, there are many companies, not just one, that is starting. It's the detection of vital signs for health monitoring. 2 vital signs are the most important: heart rate and respiration. Normally, to do heart rate and so on, you have to put a sensor, something like that, and respiration the same. But with radar, we can do it remotely. So you can just put radar on a room, and that's what they are doing here. And the radar can see through your lungs and through your heart and detect the motion. And so they can detect if your heart rate is doing fine, if your respiration is fine. And so the objective here is to have this sensor in a house of an elder person and pretty much have them, the whole house, so that the senior person can live a normal life. And if he's feeling sick and he falls on the ground and he's having a heart attack or anything, the radar can detect it because it will detect some arrhythmia on the heart without having a sensor on your body. It can just detect it remotely and send a message. Many small companies have started this type of project. Many. This is just one, showing you that they can do that. Still for saving lives, this is a radar that exists, and it's used by search and rescue people when there is an earthquake and there are people trapped, buried, and you need to find them. Again, how can you find them? They cannot talk, they are sick, and they are probably unconscious. You can detect the heart, right? The heart beating. These radars can send waves through the ground and detect the motion of the heart and detect if there is a presence of a person alive or not. It actually also identifies if the person is alive or not. Sometimes people are digging because they found a person, only to find out that the person is dead. So they spend a lot of time. This one at least will tell you if the person is still alive, so you don't spend time in digging in an area where the person is already dead. This is already used. It's been a few years, and actually, again, also the Chinese are at the forefront of this one. I remember seeing they use it a lot in their earthquake a few years ago, and they were very proud of it. Okay, but any country now can buy. There are companies selling this type of radar system. Okay, this is actually taken from the US. And then, of course, the world famous Doppler radar, which is not the right terminology. I mean, we should call it just weather radar. It's a weather radar using Doppler information, and that's why people keep calling it Doppler radar. It gives you a map of the weather, like you see here. This is a weather. This is rain, all this rain here. But it also gives you information about the velocity of these clouds. And the velocity is captured by the Doppler shift of your waves when they're coming back. So if you can measure a Doppler shift of your waves, you can measure the velocity of the clouds. And when you see 2 clouds going back and forth very quickly, like that, one going very quickly toward you and another one away from you very quickly, that's a signature of a tornado. That's why people need the Doppler part of a weather radar to identify tornado. Without the Doppler, you really don't know if it's a tornado. It can just be a very strong storm, but not in dangerous. When you have this curling very strong, you have a tornado. And so a emergency worker will know exactly where to go because they see the signature on the screen. Okay. Now we talk a lot about radar and all these pulses and so on, but I wanted to realize that radar can also do images, and many people are not even aware that you can have images done with radar. And I'm going to show you some images, videos done with radar. I don't know if you see them. I know they're probably very dark over there. I don't know, you see them? Okay, so you see them. These are videos done with a radar. So radar creates videos, like a camera. That can be surprising for many, okay? I know how it does it. It's very complicated. We're not going to go into the details, but you send a lot of pulses, you process a lot of data, and you can create videos. And the resolution is very, very good. You can get centimeters, tens of centimeters of resolution from a plane or from a satellite. So it's really, really, really good. The only problem, though, is that it's in black and white. Radar can only do black and white. A camera on a satellite, like for example in this picture here, gives you color picture. And people say like, I like color picture. I mean, color is much better. And camera costs much less. I have a camera on my phone. Why would I have to spend $50 million to get a radar that does picture in black and white? Well, because there is a tiny difference, but very, very, very important. Those pictures that you see here were taken at the same time during the day. I'm going to take the same picture at night. There it is. Aha! So at night we have a problem. At night cameras don't work. If you're on a satellite, you cannot see. And now you have this problem, and in military work, especially the military one, people need to see all the time. You cannot say like, oh, sorry, it's night. I'm not going to look at what's going on there. I do it tomorrow. You can't do that. You need to see things at the time you need it to see. So people are willing to spend $50 million or more to buy an imaging system based on radar that gives you black and white picture, but it gives them to you all day and night, 24 hours, on Christmas and New Year's Eve, anytime, all time. That's the reason why people spend a lot of money for having a radar imaging system. Now, some of you will say like, hey, but the infrared works at night. I can see infrared, right? No, I'm going to show you why. This picture here is a SAR image on the left, and the same image with an infrared camera, which actually happened to be taken on a cloudy day. Again, you are on a plane, there is a cloud, you want to see the ground if there is an enemy, I don't know what, target, something. But there is a cloud. And what are you going to do? You're going to say, oh, sorry, there is a cloud, we need to wait a nice day. You can't do that. If you are in the military world, you need to see the target right away. So people are still willing to spend $50 million to see the images through cloud, day and night, at any weather condition. That is why people like SAR, and they're willing to spend a lot of money. Infrared cannot do that. Infrared will not work if you have a cloud. Well, SAR now is very famous. You know, you have satellites in the sky and many people. There is an entire IEEE society that does SAR imaging. SAR stands for Synthetic Aperture Radar, just to let you know, because it's on one of the questions. Synthetic Aperture Radar. Synthetic Aperture Radar. And the Geoscience Remote Sensing Society, half of those people working in the Geoscience Remote Sensing Society, all they do is SAR imaging from satellite and trying to get more information from those black and white pictures. Because you can get more than just a black and white picture, okay? Here is just an introduction, okay? But people are spending a lot of time on SAR, and there are many, many satellites. So you can get a lot of, you can even get information on the ground, on the crop, on the quality of the soil and so on, that we're not going to talk about that now. That's more geoscience. from a more military perspective, we can do 3D SAR, for example. See, you can create this nice 3D shape with orthorectification, this technique that people use in imaging, right? And really gives you a kind of a 3D view for a pilot. He knows where he's flying, day and night, cloud, so it's very useful. A nice one that I like to show, this is from some friend of mine in Italy. This is called interferometric SAR. I don't know if you can see that. Do you see that? Okay. So you see that there is a Vesuvius. This is Mount Vesuvius, and it's in Naples, in Italy. And if you see it's going up and down, that is because they are monitoring the amount of magma inside the volcano. So when there is a lot of magma, the whole volcano grows, and when there is less magma, it goes away. This is a way to predict if the volcano is going to explode or not. Now, they're doing studies, but at least they can tell you if there is a lot of magma or not. So when there is a lot of magma, hey, be careful that, it's not a good sign, okay? How do they do that? Well, they have satellites. They are measuring the 3D shape of the volcano. And SAR systems are so good that they can measure variation of millimeters. Cameras cannot do that. They can see a millimeter variation in height. Cameras cannot do that. And that's what they're showing here. They are showing just a few millimeter growth of the whole volcano. This is not on scale, of course. They are showing you the variation. But those few millimeters are the one that people really care from a geoscience point of view. These few millimeters are telling you there is a lot of magma in it. SAR radar can give you this type of information. No other sensor can. We use SAR system to image Venus, because if you know, Venus has a thick layer of atmosphere and you can't see anything with cameras. So we send a radar over there to see through the layer of clouds that Venus has. We also use it for the moon to see the black area, the area that is not radiated. There is an area of the moon that is all black, so you can take picture. Change detection is a new technology, last 10 years, and I like to focus on the one on the bottom. It's called coherent change detection. It's so cool because it allows you to see if somebody was there in a particular area before you. So you need to take a picture, a SAR picture of the area first, and then you're going to go there again after a few hours and take a second picture. Now, if you see just the two pictures, they look the same, but there must be some change. We are talking about millimeter change, because footprints, when somebody walks on the area with their footprints, they're going to depress a little bit the soil, or the road tires of your car, when it goes somewhere, are going to change a little bit the dust around it, just a few millimeters. Those few millimeters that could not be seen in a picture, it's impossible to see in a picture, are detectable on a radar system because they change your phase, and so the phase can be detected. This is coherent change detection. And so you can see that somebody was there with a car, you can see the road tire. Only SAR can do that because it's a coherent system. Cameras are not coherent, so they cannot really give you that kind of information. A camera will give you more this type of picture. They all look the same. SAR can see small changes that human eye cannot see that. And the last one has to do with ISAR. ISAR is a cool technique. It's called inverse SAR. It uses the same principle of SAR, but on the reverse. We use the same algorithm to try to image a target. So right now, SAR was all about imaging the ground. But what if I want to image a target that is 100 kilometers away? Try to do it with a camera. A camera doesn't have a zoom that can see 100 kilometers away. And even if you zoom so much, then the target will move and you lose it. I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to take an image of a target that is 100 kilometers away. Radar can. Now, the images are horrible, as you can see in this particular picture here. They are not that nice looking. This is a boat. They look like going up and down, they move weirdly and so on. But radar people will know how to interpret them. And they can recognize if this is a type of boat or something like that. This is called ISAR imaging. And there are specialized operators that are going to interpret this image. But again, this is the only option you have when you are trying to image a target that is 100 kilometers away, and you have no camera, and you want to know what it is. Is that a threat? Is that a friendly boat? Is it a sailboat, or is it a combatant? I don't know. Similarly, you can do the same for satellites. You're looking something on the sky, and there is something in the air. What is it? Is it a CubeSat from a university, or is it a military satellite spying on us? I don't know. How can you take picture over there? Well, with ISAR, we can do that. That's the advantage of having an ISAR system based on radar that can do this type of images. They are complicated to read. You know, it's not an easy system, but it's the only thing we have. And now, after giving you all this information about radar, a little bit of bragging about the Aerospace Electronic Systems Society, which is my society, the one I represent. I'm the VP of Education of AESS, and it's the society that deals with radar, tracking, navigation, and you know, avionics in general. So if you want to do radar, you will probably join the Aerospace Electronic Systems Society. Okay? Well, of course, you are all engineers, so I don't have to convince you that engineering is very important, because you know we need engineers to build stuff, not just scientists. I want to also mention something about the new engineering. This is you. You know, engineers always have a problem, because in the past, 1960, they were heroes. The people coming from World War II. 1980s, they were horrible. They were considered nerds, very bad, not good. 2000, that's probably my time, right? We were technologists. We were, you know, considered, we were getting better representation in the world stage. But now, the engineer of 2020 is a global citizen, because it gives you skills that you can use all over the world. So you did pick the right discipline. You did pick the right field, because engineering allows you to go all over the world. Other fields don't allow you to do that. You are truly a global citizen by choosing engineering. Now, among engineering, the radar engineer is actually one of the best fields you can ever pick. And okay, these numbers are taken from US, so I don't know in India. But in the US, only petroleum engineering makes more money than a radar engineer. And actually, I don't think it's true anymore. Sorry, I need to check this one again. This was probably a few years ago, but now petroleum engineer went down again. So probably we are back to number one. And that's because, not because radar is the super difficult one, but as I show you in this slide, hopefully, it's an unknown field. Many people don't even know about radar. They study antennas, they study RF, they study signal processing, but they never connect all of them into radar. So not so many people get trained in radar, and there is a lack of radar people worldwide. Okay, and that's what makes it unique. If you become expert in radar, a lot of people want you, because it's very industrial oriented, very system engineer oriented, high demand, and not so many people know about it. And the automotive radar, as I mentioned, if you don't like defense, is super growing. They are hiring everybody because they need radar expertise everywhere. And 50% of the radar work is actually now software. So many of the people who are getting hired on the radar are software people, MATLAB and C++ and so on. The Aerospace Electronic Systems Society is, the president is Walt Downing. I'm just the VP of Education. We have publication, we have transaction. I would recommend you to look at that. You can get them if you join as a member. We have a lot of conferences, including one that I recommend you to keep note, IEEE Radar Conference 2022, because it's in New York City, Times Square, and I'm the organizer. So please make sure that you remember that. Times Square, New York City, 2022 Radar Conference. I want you all to come to this conference. But again, there are also other conferences. 2021 is in Atlanta, and there are many other ones you can find on the website. We have a mentoring program for all the students. Oh my God. You know, if you hear a dog barking, I'm so sorry. There is a dog in my house. In any case, we have a mentoring program that AESS is putting forward for the students. If you are a student and want to learn more about radar in general, about AESS, we have the world reader in AESS that can be connected to you at pretty much no cost. I mean, all you have to do is simply to join AESS, and we will put you in contact for your career development. It is not a way to solve your PhD dissertation. It's non-technical. It's really a matter of mentoring you to succeed in your career. And we already connected more than 40 students worldwide, and we still have 40 mentors to be connected. All you have to do, join AESS. And AESS has a lot of resources online on their website, tutorial, a lot of publication. You can find them online once you join. We even started now the IEEE Learning Network, which is something similar to Coursera or the massive online courses. So you can actually go there, go and take one of these courses for 24 lectures, very long, do quizzes, and get a certificate. We only have one lecture now on radar, and then 24 lectures, one course on radar. We just started it. And so, but there will be more coming, and they are free for AESS members. And last one, I have another 2 minutes and I'm done. I know that this is not IEEE, but I want to brag also about my company. And I'll tell you why. Not because it's my company specifically, but because Telephonics, not well known worldwide, it's a defense company, top 100, but we do have a presence in India. That's why I wanted to let you know about it. See here, Mahindra Telephonics. We are in Prithla, India. They actually don't know. I think it's close to New Delhi. It's not Chennai. But we are actively looking for technical people in India because we just started. Few years, but we are working there. You know, Telephonics, as you know, and we are a defense company. We do radar systems, we do communication and some IFF system. But again, this Telephonics, we started with a company in 2013. We call it Mahindra Telephonics. We're there in India. It's called Mahindra Telephonics. And I think where it is? I think I have it here. It's here. Frisia, New Delhi. And then we have other offices here, but these offices here are more like sales and business and so on. The actual office, the big one is here, okay? So it's a big building here. And really, Mahindra Telephonics is a joint venture, but what they do there is exactly what we do here in the US. So we have, factories and, technical people over there, and pretty much whoever works in there will actually work the same stuff that we do it here. And again, of course, sorry to brag on that one, but we are really looking for people. If anybody cares about radar and is interested in that, let me know privately because, we are interested. And with that one, I'm actually done with this talk. Okay, I'm ready to take any question, if there is any question. I don't know.
Thank you, sir, for your stimulating and fruitful session. The first question is, what is the minimal cost to create a simple radar?
To create it or to sell it, it's different because I don't know if I try to respond the question in both ways. To create a radar as a prototype, you can create it with components that you can buy with a few $1,000s, and it would be a prototype. To make it as a product, it might cost way more than that because you have to go through all the regulation and so on. So I would add it a few $100,000 because it needs to become a product, but that's normal. All products, for those of you who are in the industry, you will know that it's all the normal cost. So a prototype, few $1,000s, real product, few hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're talking about small, cheap radar, low power. The big radar, the one you're looking at the one of Telephonics or the one from bigger company, forget it. Those are like raising millions and millions and millions of dollars. It cannot be done from a small company. Small companies need to focus on the small range, short range, cheap radar on a chip, the small one, because those ones are, affordable and from a small company perspective. And more questions, whoever asks that question can contact me separately. I can help on that. ESS has a industry relation committee, which we help on that as well. I'll give you some suggestions, including mentors on that.
Yes, sir. The second question is, what is the range of waves in radar based on the modern technology?
Okay. Most of the radar are in the microwave region, and I would say they go from, we didn't talk about the band, you're right. They go around 1 or 2 gigahertz to, I would say, 18 gigahertz. But most of the radar will be around 9 gigahertz, 8 gigahertz, and so on, the military radar. Radar are more commercial, will be lower frequency, so will be 4 gigahertz, or even less, 2 gigahertz. Okay, so I would say commercial radar, 2, 4 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz. Military will be 8, 10, 12 gigahertz, and even higher, 18 gigahertz. Some radar are 24 gigahertz. Then there is a gap. People don't care about some frequency region. And you have a new frequency region that is popping up recently, specifically at 77 gigahertz, which we call it W band. Okay? 77 gigahertz is specifically for automotive radar. So that frequency in the past was avoided because it was too high, very difficult to work with. But now, because automotive radar are using it, the price dropped a lot. So if you buy component at 77 gigahertz, it's actually very cheap. If you buy component at 75 gigahertz, it's super expensive because nobody's using 75. But 77, very cheap. For people who are looking at automotive radar, 77 gigahertz. That's the standard, 77 to 81 gigahertz. And now, sorry, one last remark. This is the standard. Then there are special cases, like for example, radar we didn't mention here, radar look over the horizon, or radar that go underground and so on. Those ones are using even lower frequency, like hundreds of megahertz. Radar that need to see through foliage. They don't even go to gigahertz, they go to megahertz. But those are special cases. And again, anyone who asks this question can ask me separately. We have books and I will tell you all the frequency range that you want.
That's very nice to hear, sir. Moving on to the next question. What to do to protect aircraft from radar?
To protect aircraft? From radar. Okay. This is let me tell you here, there are two main technologies. If you see the title of my presentation, I mean, I can show you the title here. It started with, probably let's turn it off. Okay, never mind. I need to restart the share screen. Anyway, can you still hear me? Okay. I don't need to start the presentation. If you see, the presentation started with a second part of a title called Electronic Warfare, which we didn't talk here. But electronic warfare is an entire field whose job is to deny the radar trying to detect you and attack you. So if there is an enemy radar trying to see you, you want to deny the radar to see you. So we use what we call electronic attack to attack the enemy radar so that the enemy radar really can't work. So when they try to see us, we are going to blind him. We are attacking him. But this is really warfare. And there are books. There are books that talk about it. One very famous book is called EW 101 and 102, 103, 104. There are 4 books. and they tell you all the technique people are using to attack the radar. But the actual plane also has to be protected by lowering its signature. You want to make the plane very stealthy. We call it stealth. And that is more of an RF antenna type of work, where people design the plane in such a way that when there is a wave coming, the wave gets scattered somewhere else and it doesn't go back to the radar. So the radar cannot detect it. And that also fits within electronic warfare. It fits within electronic protection. Electronic attack. No, and again, there are books that just talking about this technique here. So I will say there are two ways. One is attack the enemy radar by jamming it, by sending energy back so that the radar gets blind, it can't see, like flashing it back with energy, or making your skin of the aircraft so engineered in such a way that whenever somebody is sending you pulses, these pulses dissipate, go somewhere else, so that nothing comes back, and so the radar can't see you. That's called stealth.
Thank you, sir, for answering all the questions promptly. Now it's the
Very
time.
good. We are done.
Now it's the time to express my gratitude to all. First and foremost, I thank our guest speaker, Dr. Lorenzo Monte, Chief Scientist, Telephonics, Vice President for Education, USA, for his inspiring speech on history and future of radar. Thank you, sir, for finding time and giving information on very new technologies despite your busy schedule. My heartfelt thanks to our beloved chairman, sir, Dr. B. Babu Manoharan, for his consistent upkeep in conduction of this webinar. My sincere thanks to our managing director, ma'am, Mrs. B. Desipriya, and our director, sir, Mr. B. Sasisekar, for their guidance in conduction of the webinar. I would like to express my gratitude to our principal, sir, Dr. P. Ravichandran, for his support to conduct this webinar. I also thank our head of department and IEEE chapter advisor, Dr. C. Nanakausalya ma'am, staff and student affair, and Dr. G. Rohini ma'am, IEEE coordinator, head of lab affairs, for their words of encouragement and guidance. Also, I take this opportunity to thank the entire fraternity of St. Joseph's Institute of Technology, St. Joseph's Groups of Institution, for making this event memorable success. Finally, I thank all the students, faculties, research scholars from India and other countries for their active participation in this webinar. This is our last 7-3 event of this series. Hope you enjoyed and gained more knowledge from all the webinars. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me here.